Say it again for the recorder.
Yes. Chapter 11, Experiments. Cool. Luke, hit the first light by the door, please, so we can see a little bit better up here. All right. So, in today's chapter, okay, first I have to ask you a question. Raise your hand if you like summertime. When we're not in school, you have all the freedom in the world to do everything you want to do. Okay, good. Yeah, you're right. You got some things you got to do. All right, hands down. Now, raise your hand if by the end of the summer, you don't want to admit it, but you're a little bored of summer. Anyone?
No.
Okay.
No.
I kind of feel the same way. Not that I want to go back, not that I ever wanted to go back to school and do the work, but I miss seeing all my friends. I miss playing all my sports teams. I miss being able to see everyone and having a routine. Those kinds of things. Okay? Or, okay, same thing can be said about Christmas break. Christmas break is awesome, right? But I always find myself at some point with maybe an hour or two where I have nothing to do. No. And I think, maybe I wish I had something to do. Okay?
No, it's not. School would not be my first option. Ice cream would.
My point is, sometimes we want something, and then we get it, and realize it's not exactly what we wanted. Right? Okay? Sometimes, yes, free time is great. And we need time to relax, and we need downtime, okay? That's necessary. You can't go all the time. But at some point, having too much free time is also a bad thing, okay? And that's what the girls are going to find out today. See what happens when they get too much free time. Yes?
What happens to Meg at the party? He liked having everybody dance and stuff and all that stuff. But then at the end, when he was waiting for us, he was like, this is probably not going to
Exactly. Okay? All right, we're on page 122, chapter 11, Experiments. The 1st of June! The Kings are off to the seashore tomorrow, and I'm free. 3 months vacation. Oh, how I shall enjoy it! Exclaimed Meg, coming home one warm day to find Joe lying upon the sofa in an unusual state of exhaustion. Beth took off her dusty boots, while Amy made lemonade for the refreshment of the whole party. Aunt March went today, for which, oh, be joyful, said Joe. I had a fright every time she spoke to me, for I was in such a hurry to be through that I was uncommonly helpful and sweet. I quaked up until she was in the carriage, and had a final fright, for as it drove off, she popped her head out, saying, Josephine, won't you? But I didn't hear any more, for I turned and fled. Okay, so here we have Meg is now on vacation, right? She's a tutor / nanny for the King family. They're on vacation, so she is out of work for 3 months. She's like on her own summer break. Joe, Aunt March, is gone on vacation for whoever knows how long, so she's out of work. Okay, and she's saying at the very end there, as Aunt March was pulling away, she kind of popped her head with, "Oh wait, Joe, won't you do this for me?" But Joe was like, "Nope," and turned around and ran away. Okay, she was counting down the minutes until Aunt March left.
Aunt Joe. Joe was counting down the minutes until Aunt Joe left.
Poor old Joe. She came in looking as if bears were running after her, said Beth, as she cuddled her sister's feet with a motherly air. What shall you all do with your vacation? Asked Amy, changing the subject with tact. I shall lie in bed late and do nothing, replied Meg, from the depths of the rocking chair. I've been woken up early all winter and had to spend my days working for other people. So now I'm going to rest and revel to my heart's content. No, said Joe. That dozy way wouldn't suit me. I have a heap of books, and I'm going to improve my shining hours by reading on my perch in the old apple tree. Oh, let's not do any lessons, Beth, but play all the time and rest. proposed Amy. She's like, hey, they're going to be on break. Let's not do any lessons either. Let's all be on vacation. Well, I mean, I will if Mother doesn't mind. I want to learn some new songs, and my children need fitting up for summer clothes. They are dreadfully out of order and really suffering for clothes.
Children?
What are the children she's referring to? Caleb?
Dolls.
Her dolls.
Dolls.
Oh, may we, Mother? Asked Meg, turning to Mrs. March, who sat sewing in what they called Marmy's corner. You know what? You may try your experiment for a week and see how you like it. I think by Saturday night you will find that all play and no work is just as bad as all work and no play. Oh, dear no! It will be delicious, I'm sure, said Meg complacently. I now propose a toast. Fun forever and no grumbling, cried Joe, rising glass in hand as the lemonade went around. They all drank it merrily and began the experiment by lounging for the rest of the day. The next morning, Meg did not appear until 10 o'clock. Her solitary breakfast did not taste nice, and the room seemed lonely and untidy, for Joe hadn't filled the vases, Beth had not dusted, and Amy's books laid scattered about. Nothing was neat and pleasant except for Marmy's corner, which looked as usual. And there Meg sat to rest and read, which really meant to yawn and imagine what pretty summer dresses she would get with her salary. Joe spent the morning on the river with Lori and the afternoon reading. Beth began by rummaging everything out of the big closet where she kept her dolls, but soon left things topsy-turvy and went to her music, rejoicing that she had no dishes to wash. Amy put on her best white frock and sat down to draw, hoping someone would see and inquire who the young artist was. As no one appeared but an inquisitive Daddy Longlegs, she went for a walk, got caught in a rain shower, and came home dripping. Okay? So, the girls have all been doing their own things, whatever they want, kind of enjoying their break. What has not been done? Brian?
All the work.
All the work. Okay? The room's not dusted. Meg woke up late and had to eat breakfast by herself. Things are just kind of not their normal way. Yes.
During summer, me and my sister, we honestly have to do more chores than we do over the rest of the year.
Yeah, because you're at school at the
You have more time.
But I don't like doing chores.
Brian?
Who does?
Okay, so someone brings me to school, who is Mr. Riley, the high school teacher.
So, I'm sorry, what?
Mr. Riley, the high school teacher, brings me to school to their neighbor.
Uh-huh.
And so I remember one time I was playing in his classroom because I had time. And then it was rain outside. I was walking. I was ready to get him out. I might as well hurry up. And finally, a car was over and he splashed.
Oh, what a sad day. Poor Brian.
Wait, what happened?
I can tell you later. All right, no, shh. It's not really. It's kind of with this one. It was astonishing what a peculiar and uncomfortable state of things was produced by this resting and reveling process. The days kept getting longer. The weather was unusually variable, and so were the tempers. And Satan found plenty of mischief for the idle hands to do. Someone read that little superscript, number 2 down at the bottom. Luke, read that for me.
Satan idle hands to do. And the same idle hands are the devil's playground, which means that people are often tempted to do bad things when they are feeling bored or busy.
Good. I want to say it's actually in the Bible, in the book of Proverbs somewhere, but it's kind of a biblical principle that idle hands are the devil's workshop, basically. Okay? So someone who is busy being lazy is a lot more tempted to do something wrong. Okay? If they're working all the time, they don't have time to do anything wrong, right? If they're busy, they're disciplined, they're doing the right things. But when they're lazy and they have all the free time, that's kind of how the devil sneaks in and gets a hold of them and tempts them to do something wrong. Feeling time hang so heavily, Meg fell to snipping and spoiling her clothes in her attempts to supply them. Joe read until her eyes gave out and got so fidgety that even good-natured Lori had a quarrel with her. Have you ever had that where you've been inside for too long and your parents say, go outside, you're driving me crazy. You got to burn some energy, right? You're too fidgety. You're too fidgety. Can't do this. Okay? That's how Joe was so fidgety and so annoying that even Lori was like, you're annoying. Okay? Beth's normal tranquility, her normal peaceful self, was much disturbed, and she actually shook her poor dear doll Joanna, telling her that she was a fright. Beth never gets mad at anyone or anything. Amy fared the worst of all, for when her sisters left her to amuse herself, she soon found that she didn't like dolls. Fairy tales were childish, and one couldn't draw all the time. If one could have a fine house full of nice girls, or go traveling, then the summer would be delightful, she complained, after several days devoted to pleasure, fretting, and ennui. What's ennui, Matthew?
Boredom, dissatisfaction, resulting from lack of interest.
But to have to stay at home with 3 selfish sisters and a grown-up boy is enough to try one's patience. No one would admit that they were tired of the experiment. But by Friday night, each acknowledged to herself that she was glad the week was nearly done. Hoping to impress the lesson more deeply, Mrs. March, who had a good deal of humor, resolved to finish off the trial in an appropriate manner. So she also gave Hannah a holiday and let the girls enjoy the full effect of the play system. How is giving Hannah a holiday going to let them enjoy the full effect? Layla?
Because that means the when they weren't doing anything, Hannah was at least doing something. But now, if Hannah has a holiday, gives it off, nothing's going to get done.
Yes. Very good. When they got up on Saturday morning, there was no fire in the kitchen, no breakfast in the dining room, and no mother anywhere to be seen. Well, mercy on us! What has happened? Cried Jo, staring about in her dismay. Meg ran upstairs and soon came back again, looking relieved, but rather bewildered. Well, Mother said she isn't sick, only very tired. And she says she's going to stay quietly in her room all day and let us do the best we can to take care of ourselves. So now Hannah's on holiday, Marmee is going to be in her room all day, and it's just the girls. But they're all on break. In fact, oh no, she said, well, that's easy enough, and I like that idea. I'm aching for some new amusement, added Jo quickly. In fact, it was actually an immense relief to them all to have a little work to do. There was plenty of food in the cupboard, and while Beth and Amy sat at the table, Meg and Jo got breakfast, wondering as they did why servants ever complained about hard work. Like, this isn't so bad. We can make our own breakfast. Why do servants complain all the time? This isn't that bad. Well, I shall take some up to Mother, though she said we were not supposed to think of her, for she would take care of herself, said Meg, who felt quite matronly behind the teapot. What is matronly, Micah? Yeah, she's feeling quite grown up being the one to take care of her own mother. Oh, I can do this, no problem. This isn't hard. So a tray was fitted out before anyone began and taken up with the cook's compliments. But the boiled tea was very bitter, the omelet was scorched, and the biscuits were speckled with baking soda. But Mrs. March received her repast with thanks and laughed heartily over it after Jo was gone. Okay, this is similar to when I first made my mom breakfast. I remember I wanted to make her breakfast in bed. I cooked it all up. I brought it to her. And later I asked her, Mom, was it good? And she said, honey, I really appreciate it. And I was like, yeah, but did it taste good? How was the coffee? Did I do a good job? She said, well, no. But I know you tried hard. And I was exhausted. I had no idea how hard it was to cook eggs and make toast and serve the jelly and the honey and the coffee. And apparently you had to have creamer with that and sugar. I was like, this is so difficult.
You didn't cook creamer.
Okay. So my first breakfast I made my mom was terrible, but because I was a little girl, I was just learning how to cook and how to prepare things. Like the first time I made dinner for my family, that was a joke because everything came out cold. It was all at the wrong time. It was horrible, but I had no idea how hard it was until I had to do it myself.
Should have just made microwave muffins for my breakfast.
Yeah.
Didn't make them chicken nuggets for breakfast.
Poor little souls. They will have a hard time, I'm afraid, but they won't suffer, and it will do them good, Mrs. March said, producing the more palatable viands with which she had provided herself. What are palatable viands? Ian?
Palatable. Yes. Better tasting food.
Better tasting foods. So, poor Joe brought her breakfast on the tray. Aunt Mrs. March said, there's no way I'm eating that. Put it to the side and grabbed the other food she had been keeping for herself. Okay? She was prepared that the girls were going to bring her breakfast and it was going to stink. So she had brought her own food up just in case.
He's very smart.
And just so that their feelings might not be hurt, she disposed of the bad breakfast, a motherly little deception for which they were grateful. So she kind of like threw it in the trash. That way they wouldn't know she didn't eat it.
But when they see
I guess she was the one that took out the trash later.
Oh.
But downstairs, oh, it's chaos downstairs, y'all.
There's a dead body. There's a dead body.
Y'all gonna have homework if you aren't careful. Many were the complaints below, and great the chagrin of the head cook at her failures. Oh, never mind. I'll get the dinner and be servant. You be mistress. Keep your hands nice and clean. See the company and give orders, said Joe. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. I'll cook dinner tonight. You messed up breakfast. I'll do dinner. I'll take care of it. Funny thing is, Joe knew less than Meg about culinary affairs, meaning cooking. Joe knows much less than Meg. Don't worry, I got this. I'll take care of dinner.
Oh
Oh boy.
no. How would you make breakfast for dinner?
With perfect faith in her own powers, she immediately put a note in the post office inviting Lori to dinner as well.
Oh no.
Yeah,
You better see what you have to cook before you think of having company, said Meg, when informed of the hospitable but rash act. Oh, well, there's corned beef and plenty of potatoes, and I shall get some asparagus, and a lobster for a relish, as Hannah says.
This is gonna be a good one.
We'll have lettuce and make a salad. I don't know how, but the book will tell us. I'll have blancmange and strawberries for dessert. Oh, and coffee too, if you want to be elegant. So Joe has this grand plan of what she's going to cook for dinner.
This could be like a swap.
Don't try too many messes, Joe, for you can't make anything but gingerbread and molasses candy that's fit to eat. I wash my hands of this dinner party, like you're on your own. And since you've asked Lori on your own responsibility, you can just take care of him. Okay, but you'll give me your advice if I make a mess, won't you? Asked Joe, rather hurt. Yeah, but I don't know much. You'd better ask Mother's leave before you'd order anything, returned Meg prudently. Of course I shall. I'm not a fool. And Joe went off in a huff at the doubts expressed of her powers. Oh, get whatever you like. Just don't disturb me. I'm going out to dinner, and I can't worry about things at home, said Mrs. March when Joe spoke to her.
That's a bad thing.
No, she's impressing this lesson upon them. I never enjoyed housekeeping, and I'm going to take a vacation today and read and write, go visiting, and amuse myself. Who does she sound like when she says that? All the girls. I don't really feel like doing my job today. I'm just going to take a vacation. I'm going to go read and enjoy myself. You guys will worry about yourselves. I'm on break.
That's a horrible.
She's not actually going to leave them hanging.
Doesn't matter.
Connor, I'm not stopping right now. The unusual spectacle of her usually busy mother rocking comfortably and reading early in the morning made Joe feel as if some unnatural phenomenon had occurred. For an eclipse, an earthquake, or a volcanic eruption would hardly have seemed stranger. What is so strange? What's happening that's so unusual? Luke? Marmy's sitting down and not doing anything. Normally, Marmy is up, going around. She's cleaning, cooking, gathering stuff, putting stuff away. But today, she's just sitting, reading, enjoying herself. And Joe is like,
Are you okay?
what's going on? Feeling very much out of sorts herself, Joe hurried into the parlor to find Beth sobbing over Pip, the canary, a bird, who lay dead in the cage with his little claws pathetically extended. It's all my fault. I forgot him. There isn't even a seed or a drop left. Oh, Pip, how can I be so cruel to you? Cried Beth, taking the poor thing in her hands and trying to restore him. Why had the bird died? Edgar? Beth forgot to feed him. She was so busy having fun, she forgot to do her jobs. Joe peeped into his half-open eye, felt his little heart, and finding him stiff and cold, shook her head and offered her domino box for a coffin. I'll make him a shroud, and he'll be buried in the garden, murmured Beth, sitting on the floor with her pet folded in her hands. I'll never have another bird, never my Pip, for I'm too bad to even own one. The funeral shall be this afternoon, and we will all go. Now, don't cry, Bethy. It is a pity, but nothing is going right this week, and Pip has had the worst of the experiment. Make the shroud and lay him in my box, and after the dinner party, we'll have a nice little funeral. Mrs. March went out after peeping here and there to see how matters went, also saying a word of comfort to Beth, who sat making a shroud while the dear departed lay in the domino box. A strange sense of helplessness fell upon the girls as the gray bonnet, their mother, vanished around the corner, and then despair seized them when a few minutes later Miss Crocker appeared and said that she had come to have dinner. Now, you'll see. This lady was a thin spinster with a sharp nose and inquisitive eyes, who saw everything and gossiped about everything she saw. They disliked her, but they had been taught to be kind to her simply because she was old and poor and had very few friends. So Meg gave her the easy chair and tried to entertain her while she asked questions, criticized everything, and told stories of the people whom she knew. All right, so Miss Crocker is kind of like the neighborhood old lady, okay? She's not super nice, she's not super friendly, and she's also a big gossip. Anything that happens, she goes around town saying, oh, can you believe that this person did this? Oh, have you seen their house? It's so dirty. Oh, have you seen this? Have you heard this? She just constantly gossips about the whole town. Okay? Now, I don't know if she hadn't come over for a while or what, but she randomly stopped by to have dinner at the March's house that night.
Oh, did they know?
They didn't know. She's kind of stopped by, but she's old, she's poor, and Marmee has taught the girls never to be rude to her, never turn her away, because she doesn't have very many friends. So now, Joe is not only making this grandiose dinner for her whole family, she also invited Lori, and now the pickiest, snobbiest person she knows is coming to their house for dinner.
Oh.
If she messes this up, the whole town's going to know. Lots of pressure. Ian?
I think Marmee invited her to the town.
You think so?
Yeah, just to rub it in.
Maybe. Connor, what do you think?
I was actually going to say something different. So,
We'll make it fast.
if they're so poor and stuff, how can they afford to have a maid?
They only have one.
But still, that costs money.
Yeah, it does. But I guess they decided they wanted to keep Hannah. I don't know.
And a pet bird.
Yeah,
Probably had a
they're not like suffering. They don't have a lot of extra, I guess. Like Lori or the Moffats or things like that.
The maid's got to live there.
Yeah, and the maids lived there. That was part of their payment, I think. Brooklyn?
So the first time I went to stuff, it was actually for me, and it was last week actually.
Oh, really?
And I was burnt on the house because I was making like sandwiches.
Oh.
Little tiny ones.
Uh-huh.
And so I put in the oven and got the timer on. So
Uh-oh.
I went to film myself on the couch, and I was like, what the smell? And I'm like, oh my goodness, I forgot this.
Oh, no.
So
Yeah, that'll do it. All right, let's keep going. So, now that Miss Crocker shows up, language cannot describe the anxieties, experiences, and exertions that Jo underwent that morning, and the dinner she served up became a standing joke. Fearing to ask for any more advice, she did the best she could alone, and discovered that you need something more than energy and goodwill to make a good cook. She boiled the asparagus for an hour, and was grieved to find that the heads cooked right off, and the stalks were harder than ever. The lobster was a scarlet mystery to her. What is a scarlet? Why is it a scarlet mystery? This is not in there. Brian?
It's like
What color is scarlet?
it's like fresh oranges.
Reddish oranges, yeah. So the lobster is like a red mystery. She's never cooked lobster before. But she hammered and poked that thing till it was unshelled, and its meager proportions concealed in a grove of lettuce leaves. The potatoes had to be hurried, not to keep the asparagus waiting, and they weren't done at the last. The blancmange was lumpy, and the strawberries were not nearly as ripe as they looked. Nothing is going right. Well, if all else fails, they can eat beef and bread and butter if they are hungry, thought Jo, as she rang the bell half an hour later than usual and stood, hot, tired, and dispirited, surveying the feast that spread before Lori and Miss Crocker, whose tattling tongue would report them far and wide. Poor Jo would have gladly gone under the table, as one thing after another was tasted and left, like this. Okay, tasted and then left to sit there. While Amy giggled, Meg looked distressed. Miss Crocker pursed her lips like this.
Like Marty.
And Lori talked and laughed with all his might to try and give a cheerful tone to the festive scene. Why would Jo want to go under the table?
Oh,
Jacob?
save from humiliation.
Oh yeah, she's super embarrassed.
Protect her from being
Jo's one strong point, the one thing she could count on, was the fruit. For she had sugared it well and had a pitcher of rich cream to eat with it, like whipped cream basically, which is kind of more like milk back then. Miss Crocker tasted the fruit first, made a wry face and drank some water hastily. Jo glanced at Lori, but he was eating away manfully, though there was a slight pucker about his mouth. Bless his heart. Lori is trying so hard. So Miss Crocker eats it. Something's wrong, okay? Lori is trying to eat it. He's eating it. He keeps eating, but you can see his face. He's trying real hard not to make a bad face. But he's trying to be polite and eat what Jo has cooked.
Lori's the best.
I know. Amy, who was fond of delicate fare, took a heaping spoonful,
Oh no.
choked, hid her face in her napkin, and left the table. "Oh, what is it now?" exclaimed Joe, trembling. "You used salt instead of sugar,
Oh.
and the cream is sour," replied Meg with a tragic gesture. So, when you sugar fruit, you take like spoonfuls of sugar and dump it all over the fruit to make it sweeter. And it sits in the sugar for a little while.
Delicious.
She accidentally sugared it with salt.
No!
Not only that, but her whipped cream was spoiled. The milk had like curdled. It was sour. You know when milk gets chunky and tastes bad and smells bad?
That was cream.
Her cream was sour.
Sour.
Joe uttered a groan and fell back in her chair, remembering that she had given a last hasty powdering to the berries out of one of the 2 boxes on the kitchen table, and she had neglected to put the milk back in the refrigerator. She turned scarlet red and was on the verge of crying when she met Laurie's eyes, which would look merry in spite of his heroic efforts. He was trying really hard to eat the spoiled food, the salty berries, trying to be polite. And all of a sudden, the comical side of the affair suddenly struck her, and she laughed until the tears ran down her cheeks. Yeah, kind of like that.
I can't see.
Wyatt's like trying to eat, okay? He's trying, and finally Joe, who was about to cry, she looks at Laurie, sees his hilarious face, and she bursts out laughing. Okay? The comical side of the affair suddenly struck her, and she laughed until the tears ran down her cheeks. So did everyone else, even Croaker, as the girls called the old lady, and the unfortunate dinner ended gaily with bread and butter, olives, and fun. "Oh, I haven't even the strength of mind to clean up now, so we better sober ourselves with a funeral," said Joe. And as they rose, and Miss Crocker made ready to go, being eager to tell the new story at another friend's dinner table. They did sober themselves for Beth's sake. All right, so sobering themselves, she's like, they've been cracking up about this. I mean, this dinner is a complete joke. Like, anything that could have gone wrong went wrong, okay? So they're laughing. They threw all that stuff away. They finally just ate bread and butter, which is all they had left, basically. And now they've been laughing, joking around, probably making fun of Joe. Now it's time to get serious for the bird funeral. And they did sober themselves for Beth's sake. Laurie dug a grave under the ferns, and little Pip was laid in and covered with moss, while a wreath of flowers was hung on his tombstone.
Tiny tombstone.
At the conclusion of the ceremonies, Beth retired to her room and found her grief much assuaged by beating up the pillows and putting things in order. Okay? So, what is she doing? After the funeral, she goes upstairs and begins to pick up the pillows and put them in order. Why? Micah?
She was so tired of not doing it.
Very good. She was done with being lazy. Poor Pip had died because she had been lazy, and she was determined she was not going to do that anymore. Meg helped Joe clear away the remains of the feast, which took half the afternoon and left them so tired that they agreed to be contented with tea and toast for supper. Before the housewives could rest, the tea must be got, errands done, and 1 or 2 necessary bits of sewing neglected until the last minute. As twilight fell, one by one they gathered on the porch where the June roses were budding beautifully, and each groaned or sighed as she sat down, as if tired or troubled. "Oh, what a dreadful day this has been," began Joe, who was usually the first to speak. "It has seemed shorter than usual, but so uncomfortable," said Meg. "Doesn't feel a bit like home," said Amy. "Yeah, well, it can't seem so without Marmee and little Pip," sighed Beth. glancing with full eyes at the empty cage above her head. Here's Mother, dear, and I'm sure you'll have another bird tomorrow if you shall want it. As she spoke, Mrs. March came and took her place among them, looking as if her holiday had not been much pleasanter than the girls. Well, are you satisfied with your experiment, girls, or do you want another week of it? She asked, as Beth nestled up to her, and the rest turned toward her with brightening faces as flowers turn towards the sun. I don't, cried Joe decidedly. Nor I, echoed the others. You think, then, that it is better to have a few duties and live a little bit for others, do you? Lounging and larking does not pay, observed Joe, shaking her head. Suppose you learn plain cooking. That's a useful accomplishment which no woman should be without, said Mrs. March, laughing at the recollection of Joe's dinner party, for she had met Miss Crocker on the way home and had heard her account of it. Mother, did you go away and let everything be just to see how we would get on today? Cried Meg, who had had suspicions all day. Yes, actually. I wanted you to see how the comfort of all depends on each doing her share faithfully. I thought as a little lesson I would show you what happens when everyone thinks only of herself. Don't you feel that it is pleasanter to help one another, to have daily duties that make leisure sweet when it comes, and home comfortable and lovely to us all? Pause. How do daily duties make leisure time sweet? Leisure time is like free time. How is your free time better if you've also had a little bit of work to do?
Oh,
Layla?
it's because now we've been working all the time. This free time is really special because you almost never have it. But then if you're free all the time, it's just boring and you have nothing to do.
Very good.
And it's not worth as much as when it comes to
Very good. That's excellent, actually. Free time, if you have it all the time, it's no longer special. But if it's something that you enjoy it more because it doesn't come all the time, it makes it better almost. It's always better to have, no, you don't work yourself silly, but it's always better to have a little bit of work to do and then have your leisure time. Okay, let me finish up. We do, Mother, we do, cried the girls. Then let me advise you to take up your little burdens again, for though they seem heavy sometimes, they are good for us, and lighten as we learn to carry them. Work is wholesome, and there is plenty of work for everyone. It keeps us from ennui and mischief, is good for your health and spirits, and gives us a sense of power and independence, better than money or fashion. Oh, we'll work like bees, and we'll love it too. See if we don't, said Joe. I'll learn plain cooking from my holiday task, and the dinner party I have shall be a success this time. I'll make the set of shirts for Father, said Meg. Though I'm not really fond of sewing, it will be better than fussing over my own things, which are plenty nice enough just as they are. I'll do my lessons every day, and not spend so much time with my music and dolls. I ought to be studying, not playing, was Beth's resolution, while Amy followed their example by heroically declaring, I shall learn to make buttonholes and attend to my parts of speech. So now, each girl now has a goal of what they're going to learn or accomplish over their summer vacation. Very good. Then I am quite satisfied with the experiment, and fancy that we shall not have to repeat it. Only don't go to the other extreme and delve like slaves, Mrs. March advised. Have regular hours for work and play. Make each day both useful and pleasant, and prove that you understand the worth of time by employing it well. Oh, we'll remember, Mother. And they did. Okay? So, the girls learned in this chapter that it's okay to have free time, but all free time doesn't really work. It's best to have some responsibilities and some play. Okay?